Welcome to the Law of Attraction Tribe podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Keith. If you're looking to manifest a life you don't need a vacation from, then you came to the right place. I quit my 9-to-5 job to stay home with my kids while building a thriving business. Now, as a best-selling author, app creator, and 3 times podcaster, I am here to teach you how to do the same. If you want to join my inner tribe, head over to the Manifest It Now app. And now let's dive in to the podcast where I'm going to give you my best manifestation hacks and tips so that you can manifest a life full of abundance, freedom, and fulfillment. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Law of Attraction Tribe podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Keith, and today we have a guest, Emily, aka the Rich Witch Next Door on Instagram. Emily was in the Manifest It Now app last year, I think it was last December, where she talked about removing a lot of the money blocks we have so that you can become a magnet for money. Emily is a master spiritual life coach and manifesting mentor, combining the woo with subconscious reprogramming, which is totally speaking my language. She helps women uncover and develop their spiritual gifts so they can become magnetic from the inside out to manifest their dream life and business. As a manifesting medium herself, she loves combining the power from the other side with the tangible mind to bring a holistic approach to coaching, all while having fun in the process. She has a million certifications on everything from NLP to time techniques and EFT, basically all of the stuff that I am obsessed with. So without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce Emily. All right, Emily, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to share and see what comes up for your audience.
I know, I'm excited too. So you are like right along the lines with everything that I like to talk about around subconscious reprogramming and like throwing in the, manifestation stuff. But I want to just kind of get a background on like, how did you get into all of this? Because you do a lot, like you're certified in like everything, but you're also a medium. So I wanted to like hear that story and kind of find out a little more about that. Is that something that you've always known since you were a child? Did you have like this awakening? Like how did that all come about?
Yeah, so both. I have always known I'm a medium. I grew up in a haunted house. Yes, that could be a whole other podcast episode about all my ghost stories.
Oh, I love it.
My imaginary friends, it turns out, were my spirit guides when I was little. However, I was the youngest of 4 and I grew up in a Catholic household. So a lot of it was like, oh, you're just being dramatic. Like, that's not real. And if it is, it's evil. So let's not even do that. Right.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Yeah. Which is so interesting because like my family isn't like uber religious, but we grew up Catholic. I don't know, whatever. I'm sure people on here are like, I get what that means. We're in church almost every Sunday, but it's not like we're sitting around reading the Bible. I don't know, but that's how my parents could handle, their medium child, and that's okay. Right. It's something they'd never experienced before. So when I was in middle school, it was really my pivotal time, where I was getting bullied. That's where like AIM or AOL was first around.
Yeah.
I don't even know how kids do it these days because I was just getting bullied that way. I cannot even imagine. And my sister passed away all during the time I was starting to do seances, starting to use the Ouija board, starting to kind of just be like, practical magic had come out, like trying to do that.
And the craft, that was like my favorite.
Oh, yes. Yes. And when my sister passed away, I actually told myself a story that she died to save me and that I was doing like bad stuff. So I had to hide my medium gifts completely.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Which is, by the way, not true. It is definitely not true. So yeah, I just kind of went through life as, my culturally created self, right? I was successful. I went on to, college at Wisconsin. I went on to landing my dream job for Barbie, living in LA, like all of these amazing things. But I really felt like something was missing. I had been diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and I was like, I don't get it. On paper, everything looks amazing, but I'm not happy at all. And so that's when in 2019, I really started being like, okay, I got to figure this out. Like therapy, love it. It's not working for me. And I want to figure out what those blocks are. And that's when I really started to uncover all of these stories I was living in from my childhood that were really just holding me back ultimately. And then the pandemic hit. And that's when I had my like major spiritual awakening. I was having wild stuff happen. I was getting woken up in the middle of the night. I was living with my parents at the time. I am single and alone in Chicago. So after 8 weeks of that, I was like, I gotta go like anywhere but here and have some human interaction. So I was
Yeah.
living with them, and their whole house has like surround sound speakers. And I was literally just sitting there, and they started blaring, going off, but like wah, wah, like not music. And my parents were like, what is this? I was like, I think it's me.
Oh my gosh, I love this. This is
Yes.
so like okay, real quick, I just have to jump in. You and I are like on the same timeline because literally like same thing, corporate career, everything looks good on paper, depression, anxiety, and then 2019 was like where I'm like, I'm done, I'm out of this job. And then 2020 hit, and that was really like my like kind of second awakening. So I just had to throw that in there. We're like on the
Yeah.
same page.
Hey, this is why we've crossed paths for sure.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I think then I found spiritual mentors who helped me, because really ultimately I was just scared and I didn't know what to do with it, right? Like, I mean, no one likes to get woken up in the middle of the night and feel like something's in the room with you and you're like, what is that?
Yeah.
Um,
Can we just
yeah,
talk about that for one sec?
yeah, yeah,
Because I did talk about this, gosh, I think I might have even been on the podcast before, but this has happened to me too all the time. Just happened like 2 nights ago, and now I'm just used to it, where it feels like either a pet or like one of my kids like jumped in bed with me. Like it literally feels like it's not just, oh, I kind of felt something. It's like someone is in bed with me. And I get up expecting to see my dog or one of my kids, and there's no one there. And it has happened now since about, it may have happened longer, but around 2020, I started noticing it a lot. And now it's just like, I don't even think twice about it, but it really freaked me out for like a while because I'm like, am I going crazy or what? Like, I felt something, nothing's here. What is going on?
yeah. Well, the good news is you're not crazy.
Yeah.
You're just a medium.
Okay. That's what my
And
medium told me a long time ago, and I think I still have trouble like fully
yeah,
believing that. But
totally. Well,
I'm sure that's
that's
similar to what a lot of people go through.
super common. I would say the biggest thing, I mean, I'm just glad you're not scared of it anymore, because ultimately the other side, when they're trying to communicate with us, when we've had our awakening, which a lot of us did in 2020, right? There was a lot of self-reflection, there was a lot of alone time, and it really was like popcorn. Like people were just like pop, 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 like awake, awake, awake,
Hmm.
awake, awake, awake. And, you know, when you resist it, I feel like is when it becomes louder and almost a little scarier. Although it's never truly scary, right?
Hmm.
Because ultimately the other side is just so excited. They're like
Yeah.
a kid on Christmas morning. They're like, oh my gosh, she's here.
Yep.
Like I can talk to her, I can communicate. But what they don't realize is that a lot of people haven't actually developed their gifts yet.
Hmm.
So yes, they may be energetically tied in, right? And woken up like you were. However, if you're not ready, have the mindset to do so, the tools to feel comfortable channeling in, then it's like, it just keeps happening, but it's not anything more than what it is, like them jumping in bed with you.
Hmm.
But ultimately they're probably trying to be like, hello, here I am.
Right. Yeah. And there are times where I will literally say out loud, like, not tonight, go away. Like, I'm just like, I can't deal with this right now. Cause sometimes it does freak me out still. Like, it usually doesn't, but there are times where I get a little bit like, oh, I don't want to do this right now.
Well, and this is for anyone listening. Here would be like my top three you're getting woken up in the middle of the night tips. Number one, do exactly what you did. Not tonight, not happening, because ultimately we're in control. We decide when they get to communicate with us, when they get to do that. It's nope, not tonight. In fact, not ever, unless I tell you you can, right? It's like putting that boundary up.
Yep.
2 is, even if you're like, I don't know who my spirit guides might be, but I believe there's someone on the other side helping me out, whatever that is, I would start communicating with that, whatever that is. For me, my clients, like I introduce them to their spirit team on the other side. It's, guides and loved ones. And you can actually say to them, like, I do not want to be woken up tonight. I do not want to be disturbed. I want to have a restful night's sleep. I'm not available for it. And they will help to kind of be your like gatekeepers, if you will, on the other side, kind of keeping it away. And the third thing is to acknowledge, because a lot of times they'll keep doing it because they don't think you've noticed, which is also so silly, because they're like, you're scaring me.
Right.
When you're like, when you acknowledge, like, I got it, you're here, but like, I'm not interested in that. Go find someone else. Like, it's almost similar to number 1, but a little different, because you're actually acknowledging that something is there. And I think that doesn't give them life, but it also just makes them be like, okay, yeah, she knew, she doesn't want to talk to me. Cool. Right. It's almost like a step further than like, not tonight. I don't want to get woken up. It's more like, not ever. Right. Not when I'm awake. I don't want to feel like you're around the corner.
Yeah.
Those type of things. And if that's not like working for you for some strange reason, I've had it work for all my clients. It's like, find a spiritual mentor who can help you to put those boundaries up with the other side. You can choose to use your gifts or not. You don't have to by any means. Like, you don't have to be like, ooh, Stephanie, like, I'm a medium. Like, I'm going to go and channel now. You don't. But once you just actually like recognize, like, okay, I have that part of myself. I want to feel safe and comfortable with it and utilize my intuition, more the psychic side of it. Right. Like, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I want to make this point because I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel this way. Like, for me, I'm totally fine with saying I'm very in touch with my intuition. But when it comes to like the medium thing, I still kind of have a block with myself where it's like, I feel like, well, I'm not that special. Like, that's, other people have that ability, but I can't. Like, there's no way. And even when I get signs and then I've got multiple people telling me, yes, you are, it's like there's this block or something. So if anyone resonates with that on the podcast, like, they can reach out to you and talk about that, because I think that is kind of common, because we're so conditioned, like you were saying with your family, to think like you don't want to mess with that, And as a kid, I was like you, where like I talked to my imaginary friends all the time, and I have no recollection of this, but my mom told me, she's like, I could put you in a room for like an hour, 2 hours, and you would just talk to all of your friends. And I have no memory of that, but I do have a memory of hearing people talking to me at night while I was in my bed. And it scared me so bad at whatever age I was, traumatized me so much that I think I put like a total wall up. And so I'm kind of curious, like, with your story, because I totally cut you off, and I'm sorry, but like, so you grew up and you kind of like had that, but then went into like the corporate world and stuff. And then you were saying at night things started happening.
Yeah. I mean, I would say even when I really pushed down my gifts, even throughout my life at night, it would, I would get woken up occasionally, not as much as in 2020 when it was like very obvious, right? I feel like I could explain it away. Or be like, no, I'm like, what am I, crazy? Like, this is not happening. Definitely. And the reason that happens at night is because that's when all of our guards are down, right? We're sleeping. Like, we're like, in theoretically our safe place. So we're taking a rest. But it also means that our walls come down and things can happen, right? Like, they can start to communicate or whatnot. I will say what was more interesting for me when I look back at, my corporate life and, the things that I did and what got me to manifesting, which I love so much, I know you do too, was because I realized I was always manifesting, and like, it didn't matter because we manifest every second of every day. So it's when you realize that and you look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, hello, 2008, I get a job with Mattel. Like, that's wild. Like, no one was getting hired in 2008. I went to Wisconsin and I didn't even apply anywhere else. I did early admission. I was literally going to apply on Sunday to other schools. Saturday, I got the envelope that said yes. Like, just like big things, right? Like that were happening that I didn't realize at the time was actually me energetically calling those things in, right? And once I started really diving into the subconscious mind part of it, because I was actually sharing my gifts in my coaching containers. I started my coaching business as a side hustle in the end of 2020. I went full time at the end of 2021. When I was doing that, though, I became certified as a Holy Fire Karuna Reiki master. I love energetics. There's just so much power in it's almost like your yin and yang, your like mindset and your energetics. And when they're in alignment, it's so beautiful. And with that, it was like, coming to that like corporate self of like realizing my intuition was spot on. I mean, you would probably have the same thing where you would have like crazy stuff happen. And you're like, how did I know that before it happened? Right. Yeah. And now I'm like, it's my expectation. I'm going to know before it happens.
Yeah.
Gifts. Right. And even manifesting. Now it's like, I know that I'm going to, walk up to a completely sold out restaurant and be able to get like a primo seat either at a table or at the bar. Like, it's just like how life is. I feel like I'm like on so many tangents now because I have so many things I want to say.
Oh, I love it. I'm right there with you. Keep going.
But really ultimately, for me with the intuition, with the knowing, of course, having like getting woken up, not as often, of course, in my adult life until I had my awakening. But it was actually when I did the subconscious reprogramming and decided, you know what, I feel like there's something like you had where it's almost like this fear of worthiness. Like, could I be a medium? Would I be able to create a business around this? Like, are there people? And still having a lot of that programming around, you shouldn't talk to the dead or you shouldn't lean on your gifts. And it's interesting with mediumship because a lot of people just think it's talking to the dead, but mediumship is actually channeling. And channeling is our intuition. So it's us like getting those gut pings, right? And when we start to realize that channeling is so much bigger than just dead people, it actually opens up so many doors. And I actually did not come out as the rich witch next door, the spiritual life coach, until I went through my life and success coach certification. It was right after I went full time in my business. Literally, I went full time. December 31st, 2021 was my last day in corporate. And I went on this epic trip to Antarctica. It was so amazing. I went with my parents. They love to travel and I love to travel with them. And then I came back and I got certified in February. And I feel like I shed all of those stories. I reprogrammed my subconscious mind to a level I didn't even know was possible. And I came out of that week-long retreat and was just like, this is me. This is all of me. This is my authentic self. And like, welcome world, come along, for the ride.
Yeah.
My manifestation game from doing that has like a million X what I was manifesting before. And don't get me wrong, I manifested some big things, right? Like working with Barbie, like living on the beach. A girl from Minnesota living on the beach was pretty darn nice.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy when you start to shed some of those subconscious beliefs. And it's like then looking back at who you were just a few years ago, it's like you're a totally different person. It's like almost like we're going through life with like blinders on or like in a fog. And it just kind of like, I don't know, it like transforms you. It lifts the fog away and you are left with your real, true, authentic self. And like, it's such a like liberating feeling, isn't it? That you could just be who you really are meant to be.
Yeah. And honestly, one of mine really big ones was fear of judgment. I just assumed I was going to, like lose all my followers, lose all my clients, like no longer have a business. Like all of those thoughts were what I was kind of keeping myself stuck. I think I called myself like a success coach. I mean, I don't even know what that means. If anyone here is like, I'm starting to be a coach, don't worry about what you call yourself. You can change it. You can change it.
Definitely. You probably will change it multiple times.
I've changed it multiple times,
Yep.
even since getting certified and coming out as a spiritual life coach. I think I've had a couple of names, if you will.
Me too. Me too.
Yep. Yep. And that's fine. And that's okay, because ultimately, the people that are following along in your journey are also having similar experiences, right? And that's why they're in your orbit, and they're probably having those same shifts as well.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Exactly. So you said how like your manifestation game has just completely like gone, 100% like in the right direction. So I want to talk about that. And something you mentioned earlier that stood out to me was like, if you are going to a restaurant, for example, you just know. And like that, I think that is so key. I think that there is an inner knowing, a decision kind of that we make that just kind of sets it in stone. It's not wishy-washy or like, oh, I hope this happens. It's just like, this is happening for me. Like it's done. It's a done deal. And I think that is the disconnect that a lot of people have, is not really just going for it and making that decision of like, this is what I want and it's done. There's too much of that wishy-washy. Do you agree?
totally agree. And there's so much on the like, it might happen, or I hope it happens, or when it happens. I'm like, no, we're talking like we already have it, because we already do. And the subconscious mind, I mean, even if you get out of the woo for a second, the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality. So it's going to do everything in its power to prove you right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's maybe not like the table at a restaurant. Obviously, your subconscious mind can't like call ahead to the restaurant. That's, to me, that's a purely energetic thing. When you're really in your like total magnetism of your authentic self, that's when you start having things like that, where it's like, oh yeah, here's a free glass of wine. I accidentally poured one, and the other person at the end of the bar wanted this kind. And yeah, I know you're drinking that, so here's your free glass. And you're like, of course.
Yeah. Right.
Of course. But I do think that it's total wishy-washy. It's like this, and by the way, I have to catch myself sometimes when I'm doing my daily rituals, which I do because I want to take aligned action. I use my spirit team every day. I ask them what aligned action I can take for whatever those, those bigger things you're calling in, whether it be clients, money, promotion, love. I mean, you can manifest anything. But when you're wishy-washy, right? Like sometimes I'll catch and I'll be like, ooh, I think it's the language I'm using in my manifestation that's keeping it at bay. Like, ooh, I really think I could, switch this word with that word, and it would be way more powerful in terms of speaking as I already have it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like acting as if like it's already here, it's not in the future. So what does your ritual look like? Like, are you journaling? Are you meditating? Like, what is that process like?
Yeah. So for me, and I like to keep it kind of short and sweet, 10 minutes or less. I mean, sure, on some days when we're having like a new moon or a portal, I have much longer rituals because I have fun with them. But I like to journal. I like to start with 3 things I'm grateful for. I like to start my day that way because it really just puts me in a positive mindset, no matter what's going on. So a lot of times for me, I'm like, ooh, it's my pug puppies, their unconditional love, and like they really made me smile when I went to get them out of their beds. Right? It can be really simple. To, wow, I'm really grateful for this life I built so that I can start my day whenever I want. Like I don't have to be on at 8 a.m. Anything, right?
Yeah.
Whatever comes to me in that moment in the morning, I then will do 3 affirmation statements for me. And, one of them, guys, is I am a sought out multi-7-figure spiritual mentor and coach. That
Oh, I
hasn't
love
happened
that.
yet. It hasn't happened yet, but you better believe I am writing that every day, because
Yeah.
that is my trajectory. It is done. It's happening. And so it doesn't always have to be affirmations of like, something that's right here. I like to have a big one in with it, just as a little nugget for anyone listening. And then I do the 3-6-9 method. So in the morning, I write it 3 times when I'm calling in. So I will be like, I am so grateful for how easily and quickly I signed 11 one-on-one clients, or like whatever that number is I'm calling in. Last year I did it all around money. We love money.
Yeah.
I literally, you guys, I manifested within like a couple of weeks. I manifested $100,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then I manifested, I go, okay, well, I got to try this again. I got to make sure my ritual works, right? Like that wasn't just like a spoof. And then I manifested 30,000. So but I think the key is like, don't just copy what I'm doing, guys. Like find stuff that is exciting for you that you like to do. I like to write these things down. I like to have a little structure in my ritual. But if you don't, and you're like, now I feel like I have to write exactly what Emily just said. If you get into that energy, you're not going to call it in, perhaps at all, or as quickly as you'd like. It's all about finding those balance. And then what I do right after that is I actually either go to the Akashic Records, or I just tap into my spirit team and I say, what are 3 aligned actions I can take today to get me to my intention? So let's say it's those 11 one-on-one clients. And they'll tell me, sometimes it's like, go for a walk, cook dinner. It's not always like go post or email DM. They'll be like, let's shift your energy, like go for a walk. One time they told me to go for a walk and it was a thunderstorm. And I said, that's cute. We're not doing it.
Not doing that one today.
My condo. So also it's like with a grain of salt, right? Where I'm like, that's cute. I will go to a workout class instead,
Right.
And then again, it's that 369. So then I'll write it 6 times in the afternoon and then 9 times at night. And at night, I just include like my wins for the day. I'll do like 3 wins. And then the last thing I do is, what do I want to manifest for tomorrow? And it's usually something along the lines of like, maybe it's, I want to sign 3 one-on-one clients tomorrow, getting me towards those 11. Or when I was calling in money, it was like, I would like to, or not would like to, ooh, see, just caught myself. We're talking.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard, but you get it. And then you start to catch yourself, right? And it would be like, I'm calling in $5,000 tomorrow, or whatever it is, towards that 30, towards that 100, and be open to receiving it however it comes in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's key too, because we try to like control how it's going to happen. And it's like the worst thing you can do, because there's an infinite number of ways that things can happen. And again, it's like we're just conditioned to think that something has to be a certain way. So I think that can be the hardest part, is letting go of how it's going to come and just be like, hey, surprise me. Let it come however it's going to come in the best, easiest way possible, or whatever.
Yeah. And it's so funny because with money, especially, I was so focused initially when I was trying to find what method worked for me around where it came from. So I was like, oh, it's only coming from my business and that's it. And I had a mentor who said, do you realize you just closed like 100 doors of where it could come from? She was like, you could have a random check in the mail, which I have had happen. You can have like a random opportunity come up that, you were like, whoa, I would have never, it doesn't have to do with my business at all.
Right.
But it's something that, is exciting. And so I want to do it. And I was like, wow, when you think of it that way of, well, of course, I'm not going to focus on just my business. Of course, I'm going to be open to wherever it comes from, because it really can and will come from other places. And sometimes it will be your business. It's not to say that, you and I don't have goals, right? That we're going after in our business, right? Like we have to have metrics. That's what makes it a business.
Yeah, exactly.
However, we also can be open to like where else it's going to flow in from.
Yeah. And it's incredible, some of the ways that it comes. I mean, I look back at my life, and I think everyone should do this too. Like look back at your life and look at some of the biggest things you've accomplished. I guarantee there's steps along the way that there's no way you could have foreseen or known. It's just certain things fell into place at certain times. And, if you make the space and allow that to happen, that's when all these like miraculous things will come through. So talk a little bit more about the spirit guide team, because if someone's listening and like they haven't yet connected with their team, like what would be like the first step to doing that, or how would they go about that?
Yeah, I think, I think there's definitely more in-depth ways you can do it, but from an easy standpoint, what I would do is I would ask them for a sign, and I would be specific in what that sign is. So, and then be open to how you will receive that sign, of course. But for example, if you're calling in right now a promotion or money, or whatever it is, right? I would then say, okay, spirit team, like show me a sign. One of my favorites to do, I have to switch it up every once in a while, but I like to say, show me a red balloon, because a red
Oh,
balloon is like so random. Like some people are like a butterfly, and I'm like, yeah, in the middle of summer, I'm like, yeah, we could probably get a little
right.
more creative, although I do use butterflies, don't get me wrong.
Hmm.
But I'll say, show me a red balloon if I'm like on the right path. And it was so funny this summer I did that, because I was actually having, as us entrepreneurs do, one of those like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm not sure I'm doing it. I don't know. Like business can be hard. And it just helps you grow. So it's all good in the end. But in the moment, you're like, I don't know. I'm throwing up my hands. Maybe I just need to quit. Maybe I'm going back to corporate. I don't know. None of this was true.
Hmm.
Right. And I said, show me a red balloon if I'm on the right path with my business and making the impact that I want to, because not only do I want the income, but what's most important to me is the impact that I'm going to make in the world. And I was like, show me a red balloon. Okay. I went to a street fest like that night, and the band played 99 red balloons. Like, talk about just like, I literally was standing there. I go, okay, yep,
Yeah,
the sign. And that one you can't really avoid. So,
right. I
it's
know.
different. It's
It's a
different. And
fun
then,
experiment to do. Like
mhm,
I feel like whenever I don't know, like doubt it or don't think that much like about it, and I'll just be like, I just need the sign or whatever. Or if I ignore a sign and I think, oh, well, maybe that wasn't really the sign, it'll be so in my face like that where there's no denying it. And so it's kind of like a fun experiment that everyone can go and easily try out, and their mind will be blown, I'm sure.
mine will be blown. I mean, with the red balloon, I've also seen it like over with my nieces. They were watching a cartoon, and all these red balloons flew across the screen. I was like, okay.
Hmm.
um, and other times I've seen a literal red balloon. So it can be however, and I think that makes it fun. To your point, and it's kind of like, ooh, there's the confirmation, which I just think really helps build a confidence
Hmm.
with your communication with the other side, really at the end of the day, because you're like, ooh, they are communicating back, right? They are
Yeah.
showing me, or I'm hearing it in a song or whatever. Another really easy thing that I have my clients do is I will have them like close their eyes, take a deep breath, and I will have them be like, what are 3 aligned actions I can take today? And it is like the first 3 things. It's not like, let me think about it, because that's when our ego takes over. It's
Hmm.
literally like they might tell you to eat a banana, write it down, go eat a banana. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Right.
Right. And it's like those 3 things right away. And if that's, not working, then of course you can ask people like me, like, how can you help me kind of get out of my own way in order to just be those 3 things right now? And then go do them and see what appears before you when it comes to your intention. For example, when I first started doing this, I asked my mentors, what do I need to do? And I was working on manifesting a certain number of ladies in my group coaching program. And I was like, okay, like what aligned actions do I need to take to like really motivate them to say yes? They told me to dance in the car. And I was about to go on a 6-hour car ride from Chicago to Minnesota. And I did. I was like, dancing in the car. It's fun anyways. Why wouldn't I want to do that? And I literally signed 4 clients in that car ride. And I wasn't like talking to them. I was driving.
You were
And
putting
I
that
was like,
energy out there though.
yeah. Yeah. And I just put the energy out there of like, I'm having fun. Like, who cares? And it happened. And it was so great. Now, is it always going to be as obvious as that one? No. And I want to say that, because I think sometimes when people first start to interact with their spirit team, sometimes they expect like these very obvious things,
Hmm.
right? And it will be from time to time, but there will also be, it's just having that understanding of those are the stepping stones, right? The steps to get you to your intention. And it doesn't always mean like, if you're calling in money, for example, it doesn't mean like you're going to go do those 3 things and poof, there's $10,000 in your bank account.
Right.
um, but it is energetically aligning you to having it, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
That totally makes sense. And I find that all the time. Like the more fun I have and the more I do things that just energetically feel good, the more like that's when amazing things will manifest.
Mhm.
And but we're like a lot of times we'll get that message like go outside, go for a walk, go do something fun, and there's that resistance because it's like no, I have too much to do. I should be sending emails and doing this and doing that when really like the best thing you could do is go outside or focus on your energy. So I think that's really important for people to understand and test it out too. Like I had a woman once and she's like, why is it that every time I'm on vacation, I manifest like more money in my job than like I ever do the rest of the year? I'm like, because your energy, like you're actually feeling good and taking care of yourself and doing things that are fun. And like that is the manifestation energy. Like that's the way I look at it. So it's a really good point to like focus on those things if it's coming through.
Yeah, if it's coming through, I mean, listen, what is it going to hurt?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you taking a walk? Are you having fun? Sometimes my team will be like, you need to do something for your inner child. So they won't specifically say that, but they'll be like, like go paint. And I'll be like, okay, my inner child needs some love. Like, got it.
Yeah.
And it'd be like fun stuff
Yep.
that you probably wouldn't have done or thought to do. But when you tap in and you just ask them, it also takes it off of you too, which I like, right? Like it's not just me manifesting alone because ultimately we can't manifest for other people, but we can use our spirit team on the other side to manifest with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just like a fun thing too, to feel like, okay, I don't have to decide what I have to do today. Like
Yeah.
they'll tell me.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Oh, I love that. Like, I'm totally going to start doing that. I love my morning routine and I like to, change it up every once in a while. So it's not
Oh
the
yeah.
same old, like, boring thing. And, yeah, it's been a while since I've like asked, like flat out asked, what should I do? Like, what do I need to know? And
Yeah.
it's pretty powerful what comes through. And that it's a lot of times people think it's just them, it's their brain. But like you were saying, it's like, no, you're like it's your intuition. You're like channeling this information and to kind of recognize that maybe this isn't just me. Maybe this is, channeling through me and this is the right answer and just being open to that.
Yeah. And I will say the other thing, if you're open to it, you could also get oracle cards. I know a lot
Mhm.
of people know tarot cards. I love tarot, but I feel like you really have to like learn tarot to really
Yeah.
understand it. Oracle cards are really like simple. They're like foolproof. They have a message literally right on them. And then they have a little book that goes in more depth, which is great. And so I also encourage when my clients are almost feeling like it's just their ego telling them those things, I say just go pull a card. Just say like, okay, with those aligned actions, like what do I need to know about those? And 9 times out of 10, actually 10 times out of 10, I was like, I don't think I've ever had someone come back, but I'm sure it would happen where they're like, oh my gosh, like the things that I thought of to do, right? Those aligned actions, right? That I thought were my ego were for sure my spirit team. And like the card that came out was such confirmation that like that's what I need to go and do. And like, oh my gosh, it's like a whole thing. And again, it's about building that confidence so that you recognize it's not just me. You're not crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And it's fun too.
yeah,
I love
it's
Oracle
fun.
card. Yeah.
You too. I have been playing around with tarot cards, pulling tarot cards instead, but that's really just for like me to get to know tarot.
Hmm.
um, and that's pure. Oh, it has a book too, because I definitely am like, is this card good? Do we love it? What is it?
Yeah. I know
uh,
that's the thing with tarot is some of the cards like can totally seem really scary or negative if you don't fully like understand how to read them. So
yeah,
that's why I like the
yeah,
oracle cards. It's like it's
me
very
too.
like I feel like the message is crystal clear.
Yeah, totally crystal clear. And if it's a card that you're like, I don't love for some reason, I would just ask you to reframe it. Like, what is it telling you to look at differently?
Hmm.
Um, because it's probably the thing you haven't been looking at, which is
Yeah.
why you're not taking the aligned action, which is why you're not manifesting.
Yeah.
You're calling in.
Yeah. That makes total sense.
And then lean on support. Like there's so many people like yourself, like me. We not only, right, obviously have our business where we take on clients or group coaching programs or whatever, but when you have your amazing app, and soon I'll have mine thanks to your guidance, but we also have so many like free resources too, right? So if someone's just like, I just need a little bit of, like a moment in your energy, you can do that. And then you probably will want to come work with us anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a real deal.
Yeah. Okay. So how can someone work with you, find you? What's the name of your app going to be? Like, let us know everything that's coming too.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram or Facebook as the Rich Witch Next Door. I'm on TikTok, but you guys, I love you all who are on TikTok. I need just like one or two.
It's like a different world, isn't it?
It's such a different world. I like it, but anyways, you can find me there, but I just don't post anything. So find me on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. I have a Facebook group as well. You can find me over there. And then what do I have going on? So right now I'm taking on one-on-one clients. I'm really feeling like a collective need to give like customized one-on-one support. And ultimately I'm on a mission to combine the woo with the subconscious reprogramming, as I know you guys now are all very well aware. But it's really to ultimately help you unlock and develop your spiritual gifts so that you step into your authentic self. You become completely magnetic and you have that impact in the world. And I just really am feeling like one-on-one is where it's at right now. However, you guys will be some of the first to hear. I am working behind the scenes right now on a spiritual life coach certification that'll be coming at the beginning of next year. And I'm working on my app. And it's so funny. You just said, what are you going to call it? I don't know. I haven't channeled it yet, but it's all going to be around, mindset, magic, manifesting. There's going to be a lot of, Reiki. There's going to be Reiki in the Akashic Records. I have my own modality. It's called R&R, literally Reiki in the records. I'm very original.
I love it.
It'll have EFT tapping. It'll have, mindset reprogramming stuff, things of those natures, kind of bringing it all in a fun way into an app. But I would say that'll probably be like Q1, because but I'll start it in Q1, building it out.
Oh, so exciting.
Yeah, I know. I'm so jazzed. I feel like there's a lot going on. And guys, like I do offer intuitive guidance sessions. I offer Reiki sessions. So if you're just feeling like you need a little energetic love or guidance, those are also in the link in my bio on Instagram.
Amazing. And I'll post all those links in the show notes as well. So everyone has that. And thank you so much for coming on. I feel like we could talk all day about this stuff. So you'll have to come back in the future. But yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And we'll see you back here next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys want more in between these podcast episodes, you can subscribe to my Apple podcast, Manifested It. You can find that in Apple Podcasts, and it has all of my bonus interviews, guided visualizations, subliminals, meditations, all that good stuff. Or you can download the Manifest It Now app, where I put everything, all of my interviews, tools, everything I've used to manifest a life I don't need a vacation from. You can find that wherever you get your apps, in Google Play or the Apple App Store. And you can join the Inner Tribe Manifesting community, which is inside the app as well, if you want to up level with a group of women who are there to support you, cheer you on, give you guidance, and up level your vibe. And if you love this episode, the best thing you can do to support the podcast is share it. Share it with a friend, share it on your Instagram. Make sure to tag me at Law of Attraction Tribe so I can share it back on my story as well. I love connecting with you guys and putting a face to all the listeners out there. So come connect with me over on Instagram and let's start a conversation. Have a great week, and I'll see you back here next time.